try to keep this as brief as possible. I need to eat something pretty soon. Drinking my iced coffee. I left the coffee bag in too long in the cold brew overnight. You're only supposed to do for like 8 to 12 hours, and I think this was more like 16 hours. So it's very strong. I'm going to have to put some more ice in it. But it's good. It's good. Cold brew coffee is the only kind I can drink without having to add creamer or half and half to. Um, so today is chapter 28 and 29 of Genesis. Now we are getting into the next generation. I mean, we had the Abraham, and then we had Abraham and Sarah, and his one or two of his concubines, and then we had Isaac and Rebecca's story. I still don't like Rebecca very much, and I'm not too fond of Jacob, which is where we're going now. Heading into Jacob's story, but you can really see where Jacob gets his trickery from, his trickery and cunning from. It's like his mom and his uncle. So okay, so 28. I started to make a family tree, which I showed yesterday, which I'm gonna have to redo because it's kind of I need to get 2 different color or 3 different color inks, but I know it's backwards. But you have like Terah, the father, and then Haran, who was the father of Lot and died young, and then there's Nahor, and I don't know how many kids. I didn't put down how many kids he had, but the main one is Bethuel, and he's the father of Laban and Rebecca. And then we have Abraham. And Abraham and Sarah. Sarah was a daughter of Terah, but had a different mother than Abraham. And I think the 3 sons had the same mother. So Abraham, Sarah couldn't have kids. So Hagar, her maid, had Ishmael, and a few years later, Isaac was born to Sarah. And Abraham sent his servant with a bunch of jewels and things like that back home, and he brought back Rebecca, who was the granddaughter of Abraham's brother, to marry Isaac. And the thing is that with all those jewels and stuff that the servant brought, Rebecca and Laban were like, "Oh yeah, of course she'll marry you. She'll marry Isaac. You know, money, 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 opportunity plus a relative." So that Nahor's in the pink and Abraham's in the green because Ishmael was Hagar's son and Isaac was Sarah's son, but Ishmael married 2 Hittite women, and then he married 2 Hittite women, and Isaac married Rebecca. So Ishmael's children were still in the green zone, and he married an Egyptian like his mother. That's right. But I still have him in the green. But Isaac and Rebecca had Esau and Jacob, so they're the green and pink. And Esau married 2 Hittite women, and then he married one of the daughters of Ishmael. So their descendants are going to be more Abraham's descendants than Isaac's descendants, because Jacob ends up marrying Rachel, who's Rachel and Leah and Rachel, who are Laban's daughters. So they're pink, and so Jacob's children are more Nahor's descendants than they are Abraham's descendants. And I don't think they've ever covered that, but I do know somewhere in the Bible the children of Esau say, well, we're Abraham's children too. whereas the Israelites were trying to claim that they were the only descendants of Abraham. And it's like, no, you're not. Okay, get back to chapter 28. Isaac sends Jacob back to, it's called Paddan Aram, and that's where the city of Haran is, and that's where Rebecca came from. So it's funny because Abraham sent his servant, not Isaac. And God told him not to send Isaac. Isaac had to stay in the land of Canaan, which God was going to give to the descendants of Abraham. But they sent, because Rebecca was afraid of Esau killing Jacob, Isaac sends Jacob to marry one of Laban's daughters. But he didn't send him with lots of gold or gifts and things like that. He just sent him. And, okay, so Rebecca and Isaac are first cousins once removed. But since Laban was Rebecca's brother, Jacob would be marrying his first cousin. So there's a pretty tight incest thing going on there. And when Esau heard of this, he married Ishmael, one of Ishmael's daughters. So Ishmael was also the son of Abram. So Esau was trying to, and Esau knew that his parents didn't like his first two wives. So Jacob stopped on the way to Laban and had a dream. And a lot of people say, he saw a staircase going to heaven. A lot of people think of it as a ladder, but the experts say that the actual Hebrew word is closer to ramp or staircase. Okay. So, and he saw this going up to heaven. He put his head on a rock. How can you sleep on a rock? I don't know how you can sleep with a rock for a pillow, but I guess people have done it. But he had this dream, and there was God, and there were the angels going up and down this staircase or ramp. And it's interesting because in the Old Testament, they do not mention wings, angels having wings, I've noticed. And as Christians, we're always like, oh, the angels with their big wings and stuff. And it's like, in the Old Testament, they didn't have wings, which is probably why they walked around a lot. But, and God spoke to Jacob. And he blessed Jacob, telling him he would be with him on his journey. And God said if he was really going to be with him on his journey and helped him to get to Haran and get a wife and protected him while he was there and the journey back without Esau killing him, then God would be the God of Jacob as well as the God of Isaac and Abraham. It would also be the God of Jacob. I was like, pretty hefty bargaining there, dude. But they thought of God in a different way, I guess. All right. Yeah, I thought that was pretty nerving. But the thing is, as one pastor pointed out in a sermon I saw recently, that God seems to like people who are challenging. He likes like Abraham and Isaac. And Abraham, was going to sacrifice Isaac, and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, he liked that. And he blessed the whole family line because of that obedience. But he also likes to be challenged. Like Christ's disciples weren't goody-goodies. Christ saw that they could be more than what they were. And he relished the challenge of helping them to change. So when Jacob woke up, he took the rock and he made it into a plinth. In other words, put it up on its end, and he called the thing Bethel, which means God's house or something like that. Anyhow, that is the same place that Abraham called Bethel. Now, those plinths, they can no longer do that because a lot of people did that as a place of worship to whatever god they were worshiping. So after a while, they were all destroyed, and the Israelites were told not to do that anymore because it's now the land of God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So now in chapter 29, being this is what I was saying. Being sneaky and cunning obviously runs in Rebecca and Laban's bloodline because Jacob got it. Esau did not. Jacob got it though, and he kind of gets a payback when he's in Haran. So Jacob finally arrives at this well, this huge well with this big rock on it, and there's three shepherds with their herds waiting to water their sheep, and Jacob's like, well, why don't you just water them and get them to pasture? And they're like, well, we're waiting for the other shepherds to come with their sheep so that we can roll the stone off the well and do that. And Jacob's like, okay. And he said, so where are we? Where is this? Are we close to Haram? And he's like, oh yeah, we are. And then he goes, oh great. The shepherds will say, we are from Haran. So Jacob was like real happy. He found where he was going. He got to the right place, and he said, so have you heard of Laban? How is he? And they're like, oh yeah, we know Laban. And in fact, here comes his daughter Rachel with her herd of sheep. And Rachel again was very beautiful, like Rebecca was. And Jacob saw her and was like, oh my God, this is my future wife. And he got so excited that he got to the right place at the right time. It was when meeting Rebecca, one of Laban's daughters, and he was so excited that he actually moved the stone off the well himself. And he gave Rachel a big kiss and told her who he was, who his father was and grandfather was. And she went running back. I guess he must have watered the sheep for her or something, but she went running back to her dad and told him, and Laban came out and said, come on, your nephew, come on and join us. So Jacob stayed with Laban for a month, working for him, living there and working for him. And Laban's like, well, I really should pay you. You're your family. I should pay you for, helping me out here. Just drinking iced coffee. And Jake was so much in love with Rachel that he's like, I will work for you for 7 years if you give me Rachel for a wife. Because he didn't bring all the gifts and stuff like that like Abraham sent. He didn't have all that with him. So there is a dowry or a bride's gift or something like that the guys had to pay the family. And actually this still exists in a lot of places, like in Africa. I had a coworker from Africa who his mother picked out a wife for him back in Cameroon, and he went back and he spent a year there and working on the money, and he had to get I think there was a cow for 1 month he had to get, and some goats he had to give, and then some jewelry and stuff like that. It was this whole ritual that went for a full year before they got married. So which is pretty cool, because here in the state in Western world for a while there, it was the family of the bride who had to pay the groom, but in ancient civilization the groom actually had to buy the bride, and many of them. So Jacob worked happily for 7 years and fell deeper in love with Rachel, and at the end of the 7 years he goes, okay Laban, I want my bride. And so they had this big party like they do, and I have a feeling that Jacob was slightly drunk, or either he was in a very dark tent. And Laban took his older daughter, who was not as beautiful as Rachel, and took her into Jacob, and they had sex, and therefore they were married. And the next day, Jacob wakes up and sees Leah with him, and he's like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" So he got really upset with Laban and said, "What is this? Why did you? What? It's supposed to be Rachel." And Laban's like, well, the younger daughter cannot marry before the older daughter. I was like, he had 7 years to find a bride for Leah. 7 years or more to find not a bride, but a groom for Leah. But I think he was Jacob is Isaac's heir. Isaac is Abraham's heir. Isaac inherited all of Abraham's, plus he brought up his own stuff. He became rich on his own and inherited his father's riches. And Jacob's going to inherit all that. So he's got two daughters. Let's get him married to the rich guy. So he said, okay, you can have Rachel. There's the marriage part lasts a whole week. Said, give Leah her week, and then you can have Rachel, but then you have to stay for another 7 years and work for me. And so Jacob said, okay. And of course, he loved Rachel. He didn't love Leah. And God saw that and was sorry for Leah. So he opened up her womb and made her very fruitful and kept Rebecca barren. Or Rachel barren. Too many hours. Rachel barren. So Leah had 4 sons, and with each son, she thought her husband would come to love her more and appreciate her more. So she gave birth to Reuben, then Simeon, and then Levi, and then Judah, who was the father of the Jews. And the Levites still are around. They're part of the Jewish nation. Um, and then she stopped having kids for a while. And I know this is kind of a long one, but a lot happens in these 2 chapters. And there's more coming. So those are the first 4 of Jacob's sons. And I will talk more in 2 days when I have the next 2 chapters done. So I want to say, why do I want to say peace out? I don't know. All of a sudden that just popped into my head. But have a great week, a great Sunday, Monday. And if you like my videos, if you like hearing about my views of the research that I'm doing and stuff about the Old Testament, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. Bye.